Grab some meat or whatever you need. I'm Corey, and it's time to get into it. So let's talk about Diablo 2 because it seems as though 2.4, not it seems as though, Diablo 2 2.4, the first balance change we have seen, or balance update rather, we have seen in over a decade has just gone live. It went live yesterday, April 14th, which means we have 2 weeks, 14 more days before ladder season 1 has started. You guys may know, you may be aware, you may be able to tell, I'm a bit of a Diablo fan. So let's go over this article by Destructoid that gives us a bit of a simplified rundown. I've gone through the entire 2.4 patch notes. I did a full video series. There's a playlist of that on my channel if you want the full legitimate breakdown of everything. But if you just want a quick overview that should take right around 10 minutes or so, this is going to be the video for you. So once again, this is an article written up over on Destructoid, and it says, here's info on patch 2.4. A new Diablo 2 Resurrected balance patch is in town, and is making history as the first major update to the game in over 10 years. And this does have a lot of stuff. We have balance changes on each of the characters. We have a new way to summon Diablo clone to get your Annihilus charms. We have changes to mercenaries. We have changes, new rune words, changes to rune words, the ability to upgrade and up set items, as well as some slight modification to some set items. So let's read through this. Since the changes are too massive to detail here, instead we have a breakdown of the big picture parts of the patch notes. Class changes. Every class in Diablo 2 has been touched in some way, and this is the first major balance patch since May 23rd of 2010. Blizzard says these changes have been made to expand character build diversity. And that does make sense. There are a lot of new viable builds. The majority of these builds are going to be on the Sorceress and the Paladin. There are quite a few new viable builds for the Paladin. The most overpowered build by far in the game now is going to be the new Holy Fire Paladin. The Holy Fire skill has been upgraded to a point where it is just so phenomenally strong. But Fire Nova, or not Fire Nova, different game. Nova Source has been upgraded to be much more viable, the Lightning Nova. Now, Nova's a skill and a build that I used before this patch, and now it's just made even stronger. A lot of synergies have been changed, so yeah, let's just read through what they're saying. Everything from fire bow skill buffs to martial arts skill charge changes are a go. Having played every class at some point in my life, a few of these are fascinating, and some were altered more than others. The Barbarian got off pretty light with a strong buff to leap attack being the most stark individual change. And that's because the Barbarian is already incredibly overpowered. Same thing with like a summoning Necro. The summon Necro got absolutely no changes. The only real change that the Necro got was to curses, from what I recall. Maybe things have been changed, maybe they've updated the patch notes, but I don't think so. It says Amazon. Melee skills have changed for build diversity, and passives were overall buffed to add incentives to pick them, while bows were scaled better at higher levels. That's good. Bows were kind of eh. I don't think that the passives really needed that big of a buff. They were already incredibly strong, but that's just me. I have different opinions than most people on most things. Assassin. Martial arts skills consume one charge at a time instead of all three at once. Shadow disciplines were largely unchanged and traps were buffed overall. Barbarian. Tooltips were shored up to be more helpful, easier to understand. Throwing weapons were buffed to not consume as much while with throwing mastery procs, and leap attack was buffed. Druid Casting delay changes mixed up how some abilities are used. Shapeshifting druids were brought forward, and summoned druids can summon more allies at once. This is a huge change, bringing them to a kind of viable. They're viable-ish. They're still not going to be a summon necro as far as viability goes, but it's much more capable in hell difficulties to play a summon druid now. Necromancer, lesser used summons were improved, including skeleton mages. Bone skill synergies were buffed, and weaken now scales based on level. Paladin, tooltip info was enhanced. AoE, area of effect, auras were buffed or altered. Thorns had the most changes, and lesser used combat skills were brought up. Sorceress, cold skills were generally buffed. That's good. Lightning skills got more synergies, and the lesser used fire skills were buffed. The Hydra skill, the first iteration of the new updated Hydra was pretty fun. I didn't play it once they changed it again, but I liked Hydra. It was fun. I still do think that the way that you cannot break cold immunity is a broken thing in the game that people need to understand. It's really frustrating to me, mostly because my favorite source is the cold source, that there seems to be this idea that you're not allowed to break cold immunity. And I think that that's a bug in the game, because when you have infinity, you can break lightning immunity, you can break fire immunity. I don't know if you can break poison immunity. I haven't even looked at that. And there's also ways to break physical immunity, but you cannot break cold immunity. And that's very, very frustrating and doesn't make sense to me. When D2R first dropped, if you had your cold penetration high enough, you could break cold immunities, and then they just made it to where it doesn't work anymore no matter what. And it wasn't like if you have some cold, some ability to break cold immunity, some cold pen, then you could break through, or negative enemy cold resistance, you could break through. You had to reach a certain threshold in order to break through it. It's not there anymore. I've done a video detailing it. You can find it in my channel. A big theme of the balance patch is more about adding more viable options rather than taking them away, which is great. That's what needs to happen. In a game like this, there needs to be, instead of making things weaker, because that just puts a bad taste in people's mouth, the weaker things need to be brought up to par. Now, I have for a very long time been of the mindset that the game doesn't need to be changed. After playing D2R again, and after putting a fair amount of time in the game, and then actually like stepping out of my comfort zone and playing Project Diablo 2, I've realized that, yeah, there's a lot of changes that could be made to the game for the better. Maps. We need maps. Give us a map system, please, please, please. That's what we need. It's going to, like, the new changes that they've made to in-game, providing us more level 85 areas, that's great. That's cool. It's not a map system. We need a mapping system. Bring in Senpai something, and like, we need a map system. Says Uber Diablo progress has been altered. Uber Diablo was added as a super boss in 2003 updates 1.10. But now in patch 2.4, there are a few quality of life upgrades to ensure that the process runs a bit smoother. As a recap, players need to offer a certain number of Soj rings, Stone of Jordan rings, to merchants on hell difficulty. After hitting a certain mark, Uber Diablo will spawn on the map and take over the place of a unique monster. The unique monsters would be in either the Den of Evil or in Act 5, Eldrick the Rectum Fighter. He's right there. I know that's not his name, that's what I call him. But now in 2.4, Uber Diablo progress for each game type will now be kept by a regional database, which is huge. When the threshold is met by selling enough Soj rings, Uber Diablo will spawn for everyone in the same region, not only those on the same server instance, which is huge. Players can now use /Uber Diablo command to coordinate / communicate. I thought that was going to be another thing, and I was like, that's weird. When he will spawn. Mercenaries have been buffed. This isn't going to make too big of a difference, except with the Act 5 Merc. The Act 5 dual wield Merc is insane. You can dual wield Last Wish And holy crap, the amount of physical damage increase that you get from dual wielding Last Wish, it's insane, incredibly expensive. Don't suggest doing it unless you're like very, very rich or like a streamer or content creator and people are willing to fund you to do this experiment. But that's one of the ways to make the Summon Druid, which we were talking about up here, the Summon Druid way more viable with an Act 5 dual wield merc wielding two Last Wish swords. Using mercenaries, NPC helpers in Diablo 2 is generally useless. Um, okay, that's silly. It's not generally useless. Um, okay. The Act 2 Mercenary gives you Infinity, which allows you to break through lightning or fire immunity. It also gives you Insight, which allows you a constant mana regen. The Act 1 Mercenary can give you Faith Bow, which gives you a physical damage buff. Act 3 and Act 5 are generally useless for the most part, but to say that the mercenaries in general are generally useless is kind of a stupid statement, but whatever. Not only that, but the Act 2 mercenaries had buffs along anyways, like Holy Freeze. Holy crap, Holy Freeze mercenaries with an insight or with an infinity, insane. But now 2.4 is making them a little more enticing. Instead of gambling on a randomized level difference from your character's level when hiring them, you'll now match your level difficulty. It wasn't a gamble too much. That, and they leveled up, they gained experience at twice the rate that your character did, as long as you allowed them to get the final hit on the mob. And then also it cost way less experience to level them up. And the thing that is kind of a debuff or a nerf to the mercenaries is the fact that previously you could get a mercenary at a super low level, like you would get rushed to Nightmare, get the Act 2 Nightmare mercenary around level 3 or 4, and then level it up on your own. And then because you leveled it up on your own, the stats would scale higher than just purchasing a high level one. That's a bit of a nerf because that doesn't work anymore. But at least from my understanding, could be wrong. There's always the chance that I'm wrong. I accept that. But now it's all normalized. So, to go on this, instead of gambling on a randomized level difference from your character's level when hiring them, they'll now match your level directly. Also, mercenaries can generally use more abilities like the rogue archer utilizing freeze and explosion arrow, which is huge. So they should perform better overall. Plus, you can put insight. I believe you can put insight into a bow now, which means you can have an insight Act 1 mercenary, which is kind of cool. Don't really see the point of it. Still better to have Act 2 because then you can have Holy Freeze as well. But regardless, for newer solo players, it makes early game a little more exciting, which I guess is true. New Horadric Cube and Rune Words, so the Horadric Cube recipes were added. Rune Words have been mixed up a bit as there will be exclusive ladder versions, as per usual, including insight on bows and crossbows, infinity, obedience, and pride on spears. The main change here is increasing the possibilities for insight, which Blizzard says is one of the more popular rune words. Of course, every character in the game can utilize or benefit from an insight. 4 new Horadric Cube recipes have been added too, which are ladder exclusive and mainly deal with exceptional and elite sets of weapons and armor. Blizzard says this can add more possibilities by using lower level set items for more character builds. Act 3 skipping has been changed. You can no longer rush through Act 3 the way that it was before. You have to actually build the flail. So you have to go through, and you can't just have someone kill the council and bug it and then give you the waypoint after you go back and talk to Kane, give you the waypoint, kill Meth, go to Act 4. You have to go through the whole thing. You have to get the eye, you have to get the heart, I forget all the pieces, but you have to get all the pieces, make the flail, break the orb, and then go through. It says, infamously, many Diablo 2 players would skip heaps of Act 3, and some find it to be the weakest act of the game. Oh, wow, no. Act 3 is insanely, like, holy crap, it's big. It's big, it's really deep, it's terrifying in many ways. Some of the worst monsters in the game are in Act 3. However, Blizzard is addressing skipping required content by requiring the Column's Will quest to be completed when finishing Act 3, so no more killing the council and skipping the rest of the act. Help requirements were increased a bit as well to encourage players to stop ignoring certain optional areas and pushing through a static, crucial path. Quality of life updates and bug fixes. In addition to adding language support for non-ASCII AC2 written language, there's now a legacy graphic emulation option that will allow you to swap between GDI Glide and Resurrected filtering modes to change the aesthetic. Okay. Pets, summons, and mercenaries now teleport more often instead of despawning. That's huge. The Barbarian Leap has a smoother animation, which is also big, and some performance enhancements and bug fixes are in tow. And I will put a link here so you can check out the full list of everything. Like I said, I've already done a full read through of the patch notes. It may be slightly different than what they are now, but I think far and wide they're the exact same. So if you want to check that out, look at my playlist. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope to see you in the next one. I will be putting out another video tomorrow. I may hop on Diablo 2 Resurrected and play around, do some more character builds and kind of see which feels good, which feels not so great. And, you know, it is what it is. I think this is going to be great. I don't think it's going to be as big as they do. I think that more things need to be added. They don't even touch on this, the fact that there's been a whole bunch of level 85 areas added. There's like 12 or 13 area, maybe less, areas that have been upgraded from mid to high 70s up to level 85, which is big. That definitely opens up the door to more magic finding capabilities, more magic finding areas, more magic finding capable areas. But when it all comes down to it, we need an actual in-game system in Diablo 2. I love Diablo 2. I think Diablo 2 is hands down the greatest ARPG ever made. But after playing some of the mods, it really has opened my eyes to the point that it gets boring after a bit. And we need a map system of some sort. It doesn't have to be just like the other ones. It doesn't have to be just like PD2. But we need something. Anyways, like I said, I hope y'all enjoyed this. Like, share, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. I'm out.